So, the island is shaped like a skull, and thus has a certain symmetry. Wario lands on the left-hand side, and the pirates drop anchor on the right-hand side. Different parts of the island are parts of its face. Stove Canyon is the skull's nose, Lake Asparagus is probably one of its eyes, whereas the other eye is either the other lake or the forest, perhaps mimicking an eye patch. Now, what is this symmetry? That is to say, why is one boat, Wario's, presumably on one side of the skull, and the other ship on the other? Well, let's study the island some more. The island is, on the face of it, more aligned with the pirates than with Wario. The manual implies the island belongs to the pirates, is their secret headquarters in some way. The pirates operate under a food theme, and the island does too, its geography even mimicking food stuff. But you see, here's the issue, and what unsettles me. In trying to keep its dark, skull and bones aesthetic, the food theme doesn't quite wholesome. It doesn't seem it. Wholesome? Yeah, like, food is something that brings life. It preserves life. An island echoing food at every level of its construction should be a place of joy, of health, of having one's material needs well met. And yet, the image of the skull is constructed out of all this food. The skull and death is behind it. Well, it also works as a sort of cute and absurd mix of aesthetics. The scary pirate aesthetic mixed with the cute teapots and cream aesthetic. Well, the game is playing with norms in some way, since the manual tells us Captain Syrup is in first or second place as one of the toughest pirates around, and she is a woman, which Nintendo didn't tend to put in the role of tough character at the time. However, the issue of gender roles is more complicated because the entire game, and thus the entire island, is covered in image which suggests a male gender role, despite it having a person who presents a female gender role as its leader and sovereign. And don't forget that this whole teapots and cream aesthetic is traditionally associated to women. So the fact that the pirates are surrounded by themes of sugar, tea, syrup, and other foods might, and this is a personal interpretation, but it might dampen the masculinity implied in them being the scariest, toughest pirates around. Aha. Right. It's as if I were to be as cynical as possible, it's as if the game can't actually allow a woman to be the toughest pirate around, so it needs to cushion her power in cute food imagery. After all, she is still not the most powerful force shown to preside over the island. The island is ruled by a male genie. It's not really ruled by the genie though, right? He's said to be a neutral figure who does whatever he is told. The game, in fact, might be suggesting that the genie is only evil when in hands of the pirates and becomes a smiling, helpful figure when Wario gains control of him. But Wario is a pirate. He is a thief. He is no different. Yeah, but he's a pirate, and the pirates are pirates too. Wario is pitted against pirates because they are his natural enemy, a representation of what he is. However, the reasons that push Wario towards looting are slightly obscured. He sets out on his adventure because he wants a castle. And the only reason stated for him wanting a castle is because Mario has one. If Mario had a spaceship, Wario would want a spaceship. That's at least the way the manual is presenting this. The second clue, then, is that the method he thinks up for acquiring a castle is to steal from the pirates a giant golden statue of Peach. The idea, then, is to sell this statue and buy a castle with the money. He wants a castle because Mario has one, so he steals a statue of Mario's love interest in order to gain access to this castle. The castle that would supposedly bring him closer to the lifestyle he craves, a lifestyle that mimics Mario's. So why does Peach appear here? Right, it seems as if the gender role stuff revolves around this minor plot point of the stolen statue. Peach, in this game, is not a character. She is literally depicted as an object of great value, that Mario and Wario fight over. On the other hand, the rival in this game is a woman who has stolen this statue from Mario. She is a woman who, within the confines of video game stereotypes, lives a seemingly different life from that of Peach. She dresses in clothing not as cliché feminine as Peach's spring dress, is seemingly free to roam the world, is said to be strong, etc. Again, in many respects she is a cliché just as well, but the game is presenting her, I think, as the opposite of Peach. At least that's the vibe I get from it. And she has stolen Peach. And she has stolen Peach, yeah. Mario can't recover the statue from her, or at least hasn't yet. But the second Wario gets it, Mario's in there, flying to get it again. Wario, from a narrative point of view, has helped Mario recover the statue. Yeah, it's something like that. You know, it's funny because it brings me back to the food idea. Most of the foods here is sweet or stimulating in some way. Black sugar, syrup, tea, sherbet. There are also asparagus, parsley, rice, but Captain Syrup in her world, her island, seem to be associated heavily with stimulating foods, and this reminds me of a phrase, sugar and spice, and all things nice. The phrase that is associated to women. Sugar and spice stimulate. There's something intoxicating about it. I think there's more to this than a sexual dimension, but that's a good place to start. Sugar and spice seems to be a depiction of the sexual desire felt towards women as an object of desire. The problem is that in fairy tales, stories, games, it ends up being not just the desire felt towards the woman, it eventually becomes the supposed objective nature of a woman regardless of the desire felt towards her. So, basically, since many of these myths throughout history have been written by heterosexual men desiring women, the projections, the feelings women awoke in them have ended up being conflated with the nature of the people these projections were falling onto. So the female characters in these games, written and designed mostly by men, might be representations of their projected emotions regarding the female gender role. This doesn't mean, of course, that heterosexuality is bad or anything like that, simply that it seems to me that heterosexuality is, and was even more probably at that time, so normative that the gender role dynamics in these games operate within that framework, at the conscious level of content. In the unconscious aspects of the content is everything that is not in alignment with the status quo, right? Yeah. Like, if the status quo is for a man and a woman to get married and have children, for example, then Mario games will operate under that pretense. The protagonist elements, the ego, will likely represent this consciously. Then, unconsciously, all of the fluidity in sexuality and gender will appear as the background images, the locations, the enemies, all the context the ego is enveloped in. Furthermore, Mario games are so family-friendly, so to speak, that even the status quo idea of marriage or even romantic love is never formally addressed, and this adds a weird dimension to it. Mario and Peach are never officially involved romantically. There is always a veil over any possibility of romance to keep it completely desexualized. What this does, of course, is make it much more sexualized because suddenly it all becomes like a Freudian dream. Everything is crying out heterosexuality all over the place. And at that point is where the heterosexuality, even the sexuality of any orientation, becomes mystical. You're getting way ahead of yourself. The teapot is flowing into the sea, so it seems as if the sea is tea. But what is tea? An intoxicant? A drug of some kind? What do you mean, a drug?